come out the front. And just let me introduce myself. My name is Brenda Hammett. I'm one of the adult programmers here at the Brandon Regional Library. First of all, we want to thank you all for coming. And tonight, what you're doing is we're having, in honor and celebration of our Black History Month, we have the Frederick Douglass, a portrayal. And the one who is going to be presenting is going to be the Frederick Douglass Weekend. His name is Mr. Dowridge. He's from Baltimore. And he, how long have you been doing this? Okay, he'll tell me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't ask him for that. But today, here's what you're going to get. You're joining us for a one-man portrayal by Mr. Dowridge of the life of one of America's greatest icons. And many of us are very familiar with Frederick Douglass. But for those of us who are not as knowledgeable about that, this should be a very informative program. Frederick Douglass played a vital part in the role of the freedom of slaves, as well as becoming an accomplished lecturer, author, publisher, and Mr. Dowridge brings him to life in this educational program. And we want to let you know that we're grateful to be able to have this program. It's going to be funded by the program. This program is provided by the Friends of the Brandon Library. So sit back, take a little time back and travel back in time, and get to know and meet Mr. Frederick Douglass.
Good evening, everyone. Even though it was announced that I am from Baltimore, I live here in Tampa, like a kid would say, 44 years. The question always comes up, how long have I been portraying Frederick Douglass? And believe it or not, here we are in 2019 and we got here mighty quick. This marks 10 years that I have been traveling the country as Frederick Douglass. So this is my 10th year anniversary, and I am so thankful that I have the opportunity to portray such a great man. Not only to portray him, but some people say I look like him. So I'm just going to answer some of the questions that are going to come. So put your mind at ease before I begin. No, I am not a kin of Frederick Douglass. And I will be honest with you, if it wasn't for cell phones, computers, where people can just automatically go and look up, and if the question was to come to me, am I kin to Frederick Douglass, right away I would say yes. But since we got cell phones and all this electronic and technology, no, I am not kin to Frederick Douglass. But I'm thankful that I look like him. So without further ado, I begin. Rosetta! Rosetta, who is that at the door? Who is that, Rosetta? Let him in, let him in. Come, 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 let him in. Okay, okay. Hey, John, how are you? Good to see you, my good friend. I haven't seen you since we were in Niagara Falls. Come in. What's the good news, my friend? Have a seat. Yes. You're planning to do what? Take over Harper's Valley? John Brown, that is. How do you intend to do that? You're going to go and do what again? You're going to go and kill the slave owners? John, come on, John, come on. Well, I tell you what, John, in the meantime, if you wish, you can stay here at the house. You can stay as long as you wish. How long? 3 weeks? And you don't have to pay. You can stay here for free. Excuse me? You want to do what? You can't stay for free. You want me to charge you for staying here? Okay, all right, since you insist on it, $3 a week. How about that? Okay? So, I'm going to invite some guests over because I really would like for them to meet you. Okay? Some of my distinguished guests, I'll have them come over. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I am living in Rochester, New York. and my good friend who I had the pleasure of meeting, John Brown. John Brown, he is about to go on an adventure, if you will, to take over Harper's Valley. Now, I will let you know that myself, I am in awe that this white man cared so much about blacks and their freedom that we as blacks did not care as much as this white man did. So I allowed him to stay in my home for 3 weeks, even though he got on my nerves. He got on my nerves because of the fact that that's all he talked about. When I wanted to talk about other subjects, his subject basically was that I'm going to Harper's Valley and I'm going to kill me some slave owners. And he desperately wanted me to go with him. Now, we'll come out in a minute. Yes, I furnished him a place to stay. Yes, I furnished him some weapons. Yes, I furnished him money. Yes, I furnished him a few young men to go with him. But no, I would not go with him because I feared that that would be danger. And I even shared with John that that would be danger. As a matter of fact, John and I, we took a walk. Well, before we took a walk, he wanted me to meet him at Niagara Falls. And when I went there, I was surprised because of the fact that there was a gentleman standing there, but I was wondering who he was. Would you believe it was John Brown in disguise? And he said his name was John Smith. John Smith? And I said, John, can you explain? He said, well, Frederick, my friend, I had to go in disguise because of the fact that I know there are some that are looking for me, and the word has traveled that I, John Brown, is in town to do some harm. So I said, okay. And he had a black man with him, Shields Green. And I went over and I talked to Shields. And I asked Shields, I said, Shields, are you sure this is what you want to do? Shields responded, yes, Mr. Douglas. I said, but Shields, you're walking into a landmine. You're going to be killed. Shields' response was, I must go with the old man. Shields, come on. You'll be dead before you even get there strong. Mr. Douglas, I respect you and I thank you very much, but I'm going with the old man. Well, as it has it, that Shields, John Brown, and a few others, they went to Harper's Valley. The question is, and I'll pose it to the audience, how long do you think John Brown lasted once he got to Harper's Valley? Anybody who think they can answer that question, or take a chance? How long do you think he lasts once he got to Harper's Valley? A minute. A minute? No, he lasted longer than a minute. But you hold on to that minute, because I got something that's tied into the one. Well, believe it or not, he lasted maybe about a week. And they shot John Brown down. And what they did, they didn't kill him right there. They shot him. However, they hung him. And unlike today, someone who murdered someone, they'll take him and possibly put him in the electric chair. Well, back then, when they hung an individual, and most of the people that they hung were black slaves. But since John Brown was adamant about freeing black slaves, they hung him like they would hang a black slave. Meaning that in the courtyard, they had a stage and they had John Brown hanging. Well, at that moment, I felt the need to get out of town. So what I did, I took a ferry. I took a boat. And I went to England. It took me 14 days to get to England. And the weather, as we rolled over the seas, was rough. The weather had got down to somewhere between maybe 12 degrees with snow and rain and sleet. But we made it in 14 days. The reason I left, because of the fact that I figured that once they capture John Brown, which they did, that they would come looking for me. So I had to get out of town because they knew something, that I had something to do with this situation. So I left. And just to let you know, word had traveled over to me in England that they had figured they had captured John Brown. And they took this gentleman that looked like me and they hung him. And they said, we caught, I mean not John Brown, Frederick Douglass. We caught Frederick Douglass. And they killed this poor man because they thought he was me. But all along, sir, I was in England resting and taking it easy. I stayed in England for 2 years. And I met some very distinguished, great, awesome people. I spoke while I was in there, and I'll let you know that where I spoke at, in chapels, theaters, or what have you, each one of these places that I spoke at was full to capacity. I was making, believe it or not, I was making $25 per speech. Well, at one of the socials that we were at, we're there discussing, having a good time, and I was approached by Miss Ellen Richardson, who had became a great friend of mine. And she had believed in the evolutionists, and she believed in the freedom of blacks, not here in America, but in England. In case you didn't know, there was slavery over in England as well, but their slavery had ceased long before it did here in America. So I'm at this social, and Miss Ellen Richardson, she steps to me, and she says, Frederick, I posed in my sophisticated manner. Yes, Miss Richardson. Frederick, we are happy to tell you that we sent $750 to your master back in America. You are now a free man. I turned, changed hands, and started combing through my whiskers. And I thought to myself, a free man. And she broke my concentration because she stated, she said, well, Frederick, you don't have to go back. What we'll do, we'll ship your family here, and you can live here for the rest of your born days. How does that sound? It sounds good. I'll be free and I won't have to worry about anything. But then I came back to reality and I said, Miss Richardson, I thank you very much. But I think I'm best to be getting back to America, to my family, and more so to my people that are still there in bondage. I thank you very much for paying for my freedom. But I must go because America needs me and I need America. Well, moving on, yes, I made it back to America. And I made it back in America because of two reasons. One, if you follow me, this is my family. This is my wife. You notice there are 4 children here, but I had 5, or there were 5 children. The baby, if you notice, the baby, Annie, she died at the age of 10. So that was the main reason for me coming back to the States. And of course, the next reason was because I knew that America is where I should have been. Who am I? I was born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. They say my birth date is February the 14th, 1818. So that means tomorrow is February the 14th. I will be 201 years old. Can I get applause? Really, everyone should be singing happy birthday to me. I was born, they say, on the Lord's plantation in Eastern Maryland. The Lord's plantation was the largest plantation in the state of Maryland. My mother, Miss Harriet Bailey, my mother, she was on another plantation and she would make it 12 miles through the woods with no shoes on. She would trample through those woods at night, and she had to be back at that plantation before the break of dawn, or else she would receive a whipping. But she would come sometimes 3 times a week to come and see me. And she would rock me in her arms. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, unlike the electricity that you have today, we had a candle. And if there was no matches or no way to light that candle, well, I didn't see her, and she didn't see me. One reason I didn't see her, because she was very dark-skinned, very dark. But I could feel her. And as she would rock me, she would sing to me. She made up a song called My Little Valentine. And that's why it is stated that I was born on February 14th, Valentine's Day. My grandmother, Miss Betty Bailey. Just imagine, my grandmother took care of my slave owners. She took care of the family. Even my master, when he was a little boy, matter of fact, she helped birth my master. And when my grandmother, Miss Betty Bailey, got old and senile, they put her out in a cabin where she would demise. And instead of having a proper funeral for my grandmother, they would just take her, dig a hole, and just put her in a hole. My grandmother, I recall maybe when I was about 6 or 7 years old, we went on long walks. But this one particular walk that we went on, and she held my hand and we walked, and we walked, and we walked. It seemed like we walked for 15 days straight, but we walked. She was taking me out of danger. And this home that she took me to, there was an Aunt Katie there. I still don't know why this day she took me there, because Aunt Katie did not like me. She would spank me every chance she got. My grandmother told me, she said, Freddie, that's what she called me, Freddie. Freddie, go outside and play. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go play. I want to stay with you. I want to stay with you, Grandma. I want to stay with you. Come on, Freddie. Go out there and play. So she bumped me off of her, and she took me outside. And she said, you stay out here and play, baby. It's going to be okay. So I didn't even play with the other kids. And the other kids were my brothers and my sisters. I stayed out there, and they tried to get me to play, and I just stood on the sideline, mad. Anybody ever been mad before? We got some young ones in here. Anybody ever been mad before? And all of a sudden, maybe after 15, 20 minutes, I guess it was, my brother came to me and said, Freddie, Grandma's gone. And I lashed out and I said, you're telling a fib. Grandma's not gone. Grandma's gone. No, she's not gone. And I dashed inside to see. And to my horror, she was gone. Never to be seen again. No more than just when I heard that she had died. Now going back to my mother, Harriet Bailey, because I hadn't seen her in some years, when she died, it was almost like this tissue. After I wipe, I throw it away and don't think no second thoughts of it, because of detachment when she died. But even though it was a while since I saw my grandmother, when she died, that hurt it. I said my grandmother took care of my master's family, but I didn't tell you who my supposed father was. Well, my father, the word is that my father's name is Aaron Anthony. Aaron Anthony was a white man. Aaron Anthony, they called him Captain Anthony because of the fact that he used to wear a sailor's cap, and he used to go on the Chesapeake Bay and sail his boat. I'm yet to see a black man with a sailor's cap sailing their boat on the Chesapeake. And even though I was his son, I still got whippings like everybody else. He had a daughter, Miss Lucretia. That's what we called her, Miss Lucretia. But the funny thing of it is, she treated me very nice. And she didn't even know that I was her little brother. Sir, I guess they called it G-E-N-E-S, genes. Automatic treatment. She would treat every other person out there mean, but she would treat me kind and nice. And she didn't even know that I was her little brother. Clothing of slaves. The men, they got one pair of pants, a shirt, and a pair of shoes. And I have you know they had to wear this all year long. You wore it out, you tore it out, that's it. The women, they got one dress for the whole year. You wear that dress out, that's it. And us little children, we got a gown. And as we grow, the gown got shorter. That was it for 1 year. That was our clothing. And unlike you all today who have utensils such as spoons and forks and knives and napkins and plates, tables to sit at, cups to drink out. Well, we didn't have the luxury. When it came to eat, especially with us children, when it came to eat, this was our fork. This was our spoon. This was our knife. Because we had to scoop it up. That's how we ate our food. Well, sometimes they give us a little seashell that was broken. We can scoop it up. Sometimes we get a twig and we stir it around. As far as our drinking goes, water. The slave mothers would get the water out of the pond. Allow me to share what went on down in the pond. That's where the horses and the pigs and the alligators or what have you, that's where they swam and that's where they did their business at. In the pond, that's where the adults washed the clothes at. In the pond, that's where the humans bathed at, in the pond. I'll never forget this one night. We were all cuddled together and I'm in my potato sack because that's what we slept on, in the floor, all huddled together. And out of nowhere I heard this screeching, screaming sound. It scared me half to death. I couldn't help. As much as I was scared, I couldn't help. I got up and I looked around to see what this noise was. Who was screaming? Who was hollering? And I ran over. And as I ran over, I saw my master. I saw my master beating. Yes, beating my Aunt Hester. He had strung my Aunt Hester up like such by her fingers and tore off her shirt. And I saw him lashing out. And every time he lashed out, he would break the skin. And as the skin would break, blood would just start popping off and spurring off. And my aunt would just be screaming and howling. And every time he hit her, he would tell her to shut up and she would scream even more. And as I'm looking at this, I want to cry, but I know if I cry, he would know that I'm nearby and he would come after me. So I eased out and I made it back. And I knew then something wasn't right with this picture. But because of my age, I just couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure it out. My master, as he's beating my aunt, he's telling my aunt, he said, if I catch you one more time with that slave, because my aunt had a liking to a slave on another plantation. The slave's name was Ned. They were liking each other. They were courting each other. But I have you know, my master liked her. He wanted her for himself. And he said, if I catch you with Ned again, I'll kill you. And as I ran back, I made myself back, got back in my potato sack, which was made of wool, and I squeezed myself inside of the adults that were there so I could warm up if I was sniffing it. because it was so petrifying to see that. But again, there was something that got in me, and it wouldn't let me loose. Miss Lucretia, one day, she came to me and she said, "Frederick?" I said, "Yes, Miss Lucretia. I want you to go to the big house. You're going to take a bath." "A what?" "You're going to take a bath. And I want you to go up on the second floor." And when I ran upstairs and I got to the second floor, would you believe there was a bathtub? Would you believe there was clean water in the bathtub? And I looked at it. I have you know I did not hesitate to get in that water. I dived in that water. And I let you know I stayed in that water for maybe about 2-3 days, it seemed like. Because I was in there bathing, swimming, and doing everything else. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear this. "Frederick, what are you doing up there?" "I'm bathing." "You've been up there an hour and a half. Get out the bathtub." I didn't want to get out that bathtub because that water was feeling so good. You imagine, that was my first bath. I'm 7 years old. That's my first bath. My bath previously was down in the pond. I told you earlier what we were made to wear, a gown. After it was all said and done, Miss Lucretia came to me, she dried me off, and she gave me my first pair of pants. She gave me my first brand new shirt. She gave me my brand new pair of shoes. And I don't know about you when you buy a pair of brand new shoes, but those shoes were hurting my feet terribly. But I did not shout out and say, "Miss Lucretia, I don't want these shoes, they hurt." I walked just like this. I don't care how much they were hurting. I had me some new shoes. And she took me downstairs and she put me on the carriage. And that carriage headed to Baltimore. Well, when we got to Baltimore and that carriage stopped, they took me off the carriage, and I started walking towards the house. Now I saw there were 3 people standing out there. There was a man, there was a woman, and there was a child. And the closer I got, the more I started putting my head down. Because you're not allowed the little white people in their face. And as I got closer, quite naturally, I put my head down. And I saw some feet down there. And I heard, "Frederick, Frederick," pardon my smile, "Frederick." And I kept my head down. And I said to myself, I am not going to look up because this lady trying to kill me. I know I ain't supposed to look white people in their face. And as I got closer, she was standing about right here. I could feel her breathing on me. And she put her hand out like this. And she put her hand under my chin. And she went to move up my face, if you will. So I came up like this. And I could feel it in my face. And she said, "Frederick, open your eyes." And I said to myself, this lady really want to get me killed. I'm not going to look her in her face. And I could feel her breathing on me. "Frederick, it's okay. You can open your eyes." And as I hesitated for maybe about another 3 seconds, then I moved to open up my eyes. And I opened up such as. And I saw those big blue eyes looking in my eyes. And I saw those rosy red cheeks and those big layer of teeth just looking at me. And she's smiling in my face. And I'm saying to myself, "Oh, I'm going to die now." And she says, "Frederick, welcome to your new home." And I'm like, and all of a sudden she stepped away. And who steps in front of my face? Well, it's Master Hugh R. Master Hugh R steps in front of me and he says, "Frederick," and right away, because of that bass, right away I dropped. And he said, "Frederick, you're here to take care of my son Tommy. You understand me?" "Yes, Master. I'm here to take care of your son Tommy." So he summons Tommy, and Tommy comes over. He said, "This is Tommy." And Tommy reaches out his hand. He's a child. He don't know. He reaches out his hand. So I hesitate to reach out my hand. So he took my hand and he put it up and he shook it. I still got my head down. So we all moved. Now, I must tell you this. You're right. Tommy had an advantage. How did Tommy have an advantage? First of all, Tommy was white. Second of all, Tommy went to school. Third of all, Tommy came home with what we know as books. Third of all, Tommy took his books up to the bedroom. And when the family would leave out, yes, sometimes I would sneak up and I would open up those books. And I would try to read those books. Even though I couldn't read, I would use my finger. And I would try to pronounce words even though I couldn't. But the saving grace was no other than, may I get this chair please? The saving grace was no other than Miss Sophia. Miss Sophia, she had trouble reading. So what she would do, she would sometimes be sitting there reading the Bible. Sometimes she'd be sitting there reading the newspaper. Sometimes she'd just be reading some literature. And she would say, Frederick! And I was like, yes, Miss Sophia, you come over here now. So I would come and I would go to take my place on the floor. And she'd say, no, you sit here right here on the couch with me. And I'm like, okay. And we would start reading and she would read to me. Well, one day while she was reading me, we heard a thump. The door opened and it was Master Ard. Master Ard came and he looked. Miss Sophia, don't you be teaching them little Negroes how to read. You teach them how to read, then they're going to want to escape and take over. Don't let me see you doing that again. And Miss Sophia, in awe, she just turned around and said, but I didn't know. And he said, well, you know. And then he stomped over to me, and right away, you know what I did in my head? I dropped, and he stood right there. And he said, Frederick, don't never let me catch you reading again. You're not here to read. I told you, you're here to take care of Tommy. You understand? And I responded by saying, yes, Master. I'm never going to read again. I hate reading, Master. Master, reading bad for you, Master. That's what I said out my mouth. In my mind, he just made me more hungry to want to what? Read. That's right. That's right. So, as I got a little older, Master would send me to the store. He would have me go out on errands. And I'll let you know that Master would pay me to go to the store. Now, the question to you all, how much you think the Master would pay me to go to the store?
A cent.
How much?
A cent or a little bit more.
A cent? How much?
25 cents.
No? Anybody else? Now, you say a cent or you say 1 cent? 1 cent? That's right. He will pay me 1 cent to go to the store. Now, before I would leave, I would hustle to the kitchen. And I would go in that kitchen and go to the bread. And I'll start breaking this bread up, and I'll stuff my pockets with it. So after I stuff my pocket with it, I go to the store. That's right. I skip to the store. And when I got to the store, well, guess who was down at the store waiting on me? Anybody want to take a guess? No.
The master.
No. Go ahead. No. No. Go ahead. No, ma'am. One more shot, and then I'm going to tell you who it was. Don't be scared. Go ahead.
The little boy.
No, as a matter of fact, there were boys there. There were white boys that were standing on the corner right there at the store. Now, these white boys and I, we had something in common. We were